Hey, what's up? Welcome to a new video. This one is paper 1-1 of May-June 2010 for A-level math, obviously. Now, with that being said, let's move on to question number 1. Okay. So now for this question, we have the acute angle x, radians, is such that tan of x is equal to k. Okay. Now k is given to you as a positive value. Expressed in terms of k, the first one we have tan of pi minus k. Now again, we know what is pi. For example, I don't like to work with radians. Okay, I always convert pi to 180 minus k. Now, obviously, we have, I think, learned about the expansion in paper, I think in Add Math or something, right? We can always use the logic, or you can just learn this directly. So tan 180 minus k minus a constant, where k is a, as you can see here, positive value. We understand that should just give you minus tan of the angle k. So how about you learn this? So let's make this something you have to learn. Tan of 180 minus a positive value have to be minus tan of k. So that will give you minus k as your answer. So this is x. My apologies. So see, I'm confused. X here. So tan of, okay, this is fine, but let me be consistent so you can don't get confused. So here you go. Because here we have tan of x is k, not tan k, right? So again, if you have tan of 180 minus x, it is simply equal to minus tan x. Let's say this is an ID you can learn and kind of memorize this for future use. Now for part 2, we have this one, tan of 90 degrees minus x. Now again, you can always memorize this as cot of x. So again, I don't think if you want to explain, it will be kind of long for you to understand the explanation itself. Why don't you just memorize the shortcut way? Hey, this is this and this is this. It is the best for yourself, right? So now we understand what is cot, right? Cot is simply 1 over tan x. So 1 over the value of k. That will be part 2 of the question. Now for part 3, we have to find sin x. Now part 3, sin x. So pretty easy. Now we can just use a triangle because we know tan x is k, right? For example, if you have a triangle here, that will be 90, and this is x. Now what is k? K is k over 1. Now we know tan is TO A, opposite side over a side. Opposite side over a side. Opposite side is k here. A side is here. So we can find this side. How would you find this side? We know we can find by using the Pythagoras theorem. That will be root of 1 plus k squared. So finally, to find sine, we have to think of SOA. That should be opposite side over each side. Should be this one. That makes sense, right? I hope that makes sense for this one, and that will be your answer for part 3. Again, for the first two, in my opinion, it's the best. You can just learn them by heart, because for you to go understand the explanation will be the same thing as memorizing them. Tan of 180 minus something is simply minus tan of something, and here when you have 90 minus x, it will be simply 1 over tan of that value over here, and that will be your question for 1, 2, 3 into finding the values of tan and sin x. Let's move on to the next question. So part 1, we have to find the first 3 terms of this expansion in descending powers of x. That is, from the biggest powers to the lowest powers. So let's do this. So usually, how would you expand this? Usually, you will do the power is 5. 5, choose something, we don't know. And then the first term here is 2x. And then here we have minus 3 over x. We have to choose, so here we have n, that will be n over here, and that will become 5 minus n. So this is just one of the terms will have this form. Now we have to choose the terms we will need so that we have the first 3 terms in descending powers of x. So this is also important in this question to know exactly what they are asking you to find. So from biggest to smallest, we have to first begin with the highest power. As you can see here, we have to begin in such a way. Here we have the highest power. So first term will be 5, combination 0, 2x minus 3 over x. This is 0, this also will be 0. 5 minus 0 is 5, right? Then second term, that will be this, 2x over x, that will be 1, 1, that will be 4. And finally, 5 combination 2, 2x, that will be minus 3 over x. Here we have 2, that will be 2 as well. 5 minus 2 is 3. Again, if you guys don't know what to do exactly, if that is confusing you, since the power is only 5, we can expand everything. You can also do that, expand everything. And then once you have all the terms in front of you, you can choose the first 3 terms, which are from descending powers of x. So let's do that. That will be 5 choose 0 is what? 5 choose 0 should be 1. 2 power 5 is 32. X power 5, and that should be 1. So let's check. 2 power 5 is 32. That is good. Okay. Now 5 choose 1 is 5. This will be 16. X power 4. Here we have minus 3 over the value of x. Plus 5 choose 3 is 10. That should be 8. X power 3. That should be 9 over x squared. Now we have to simplify one by one. So this will become 32 x power 5. Okay. And this will cancel out. That will be 3 here. Here you'll have 5 times 16 times minus 3. That will be minus 240 x power 3, because here we have power 3 remaining. And 5 times 16 times minus 3 should be minus 240. And lastly, we have 10 times 8 times 9. You will have plus 720. And that will cancel out with this. That will be 1 remaining. Should have x. Okay, so as you can see, this will be the first 3 terms of this expansion with descending powers of x, from the highest power to the lowest power. Okay, that will be part 1 of your question. Now let's move on to part 2 of your question. Hence means we have to use part 1 to find the coefficient of x, which means when you expand this term, you will have something ax, a term in x, right? And the coefficient of x is just a value in front of x. So you have to find that value in this expansion. Now, obviously, we have to use part 1. One by one, how would you do this? So let's have a look. We have 1 plus 2 over x squared multiplied by this. Now, this is the same thing from part 1, and we realize that this is actually this, right? 32x power 5 minus 240 x power 3 plus 720x. Now we have to expand one by one. So first we have to take 1, multiply by something. Now again, if you think, we only care about the term in x. So we don't need to do everything. It will be a waste of your time. So 1 times which one? Times this one. So 1 times 720, which is x here. So we only need the term in x. Now this one, plus 2 over x squared times which one? Let's think. We need term in x, so times this one. Obviously, that will be 240 x power 3. Now simplify. This is cancel out with this one. That will be 1 remaining. So you will have 720 x. And here, of course, we have to have minus. I forgot the minus here. It is also very important to be careful. You don't want to miss those signs. It will give you the wrong value at the end. So now plus 2 times this will be what? 2 times 240, that will be minus 480 x. So 720 minus 480, that should be 240. 240x. So let's write your answer. The coefficient will be just this value over here. So that will be 240 as your answer, as the coefficient of x squared. Now your answer should not include x. We only care about the value at the beginning of x, which is called the coefficient of x. So let's move on to the next question. The 9th term Rn of an AP is 22. So we know the 9th term is equal to 22. That's the given information. And the sum of the first 4 terms, so sum of the first 4 terms is 49. Okay, these are the given information that we have, so we have to use these information to find the following values or answers. Now part 1, we have to find the first term, which is A, and the common difference, which is D. Okay, so now since we know it is an AP, it is given to you by the question, let's first write down all the formulas we know for AP. So AP, we know that the n term is given to you by A plus n minus 1 times D. Sum of the first n term should be half times n 2A plus n minus 1 times D. So now we have a few information here we can use to kind of form equations. For example, we know the ninth term is equal to, so what is ninth term? Ninth term is 22, which means when n is equal to 9, the term is 22. Replace in the first equation, so term is 22. A we don't know, n we know it's 9 minus 1 is 8, D. So A is 22 minus 8D. That is your equation number 1. Now for number 2, same thing as well, as we can see here. So this is 4 here, not infinity. Sum of the first 4 terms is 49. So we can use this one. When n is equal to 4, the sum was 49. Replace in this equation, 49 should be half times n times 2a. 2 times a we don't know. A we don't know, right? And then plus n minus 1 is 3d. Now we have to simplify. That will be 2 here. Okay, so then what can we do? We can also expand the brackets. You will have 49. That will be 4a plus 6d. That will be your equation number 2. So as you can see, we have 2 equations with 2 unknowns. We can solve the equation simultaneously, right? Here we have a. We can replace a here, right? You will have 49 equal to 4 times a, but now a is also equal to 22 minus 8d plus 6d. Expand. Let's see what do we have. 4 times 22 is 88 minus 32d plus 60. That will be 49. Let's simplify. That will be what? So 49 minus 88, that should be minus 39, equal to minus 32 plus 6, that should be minus 26d. So finally from this we can realize that d will have to be minus 39 divided by minus 26, that should be 1.5. This is the value of d that we need to find, but also we can find the value of a in here. So a will have to be 22 minus 8 times d, which is 1.5. Let's see what do we get. That should be 10. Okay, so part 1 of the question, we realize the first term is 10 and the common difference is d, is 1.5. Great. Now what else? The n term, we don't know, of the AP is 46. Find the value of n. So pretty easy. Now since we know the value of a is 10, the value of d is 1.5, and we know the formula for the nth term is given to you by a plus n minus 1 times d. Now we know the term is given to you by 46. We have to find the value of n. So a is 10 plus n minus 1 we don't know, d is 1.5. Simplify, send this over here, you will have 36. That should be 1.5 times n minus 1. So n minus 1 is equal to 36 divided by 1.5, that should be 24. And finally n have to be the value of 25. This is your value or your answer for question part 2. Now let's move on to the next question. The diagram shows the curve y equal to this. This is the curve as we can see right here, okay? And the line y equal to 5. It is a horizontal line, y equal to 5. Now what is the first thing we can kind of deduce from here? If we have a line y equal to 5, we realize the height will be what? If you think, the height will have to be 5. That's the first thing we can kind of observe from this diagram. Okay, cool. Now what else we need to know? So here we have to find the area of the shaded region. So pretty easy. As always, we have to look at this step by step of how we can derive this part of the region. Now, by observation, we can first find the area of the whole thing, right? Now, what is the area of the whole thing? If you can observe, it will be area on the graph between the region of here until here. Now, how would you find the whole area? As you can see, we have to find those 2 points. So pretty easy. Those 2 points here are the x values of the point of intersection of the straight line and the curve. So let's find that. The straight line is this and the curve is this, so we have to solve them simultaneously. So whenever we have a point of intersection, cuts, meets, we have to solve the 2 equations simultaneously. So on y will be here 5 on one side, and here we have 6x minus x squared. Let's rearrange, send everything to this side. You will have x squared minus 6x plus 5 have to be 0. Now we can try to factorize. That will be x times x and 5 times 1. Now in this case we need to have minus 6, so we have to have minus 5 minus 1. Makes sense, right? Now x will be 5, x will be 1. So these values means, if you observe on the graph, the value here will be 1 and the value here will be 5. And these are very important because we are trying to find the whole area between the values of x is 1 until 5, the whole thing. Now what is that? This is simply area under curve between the limits of 5 and 1, right? We're trying to find this whole thing. That makes sense, right? Okay, so that is step 1. So let's first find the area. That will be 6x minus x squared by dx. That will become 6x squared over 2 minus x power 3 over 3 between the limits of 5 and 1. That should be 3 here. So 3 times x squared, so 3 times 25 minus 125 divided by 3. Minus, here we have 1, that should be 3 times 1 minus 1 over 3. So let's check. 5 power 3 is 125 indeed. So 1 by 1, 3 times 25 minus 125 divided by 3. That should be this value, then minus 3 minus 1 over 3. That should be this value. So that should be 32 over 3 for the area of the whole thing, of everything. Now, we're only trying to find the area of that region, on this region, right? Now, to find this area, we have to minus this one that we don't need. So minus the area of, if you observe, this is a straight line. These are vertical lines. This is obviously a rectangle. So how do you find the area of rectangle? Length times base. Length here is what? 1 to 5. So 5 minus 1 is 4 is length. Times width is 5. That should be the value of what? That should be the value of 20. So finally, area that we are trying to find will be the whole thing. 32 over 3 minus 20. That should be 10 2 over 3 units square for area. And that is how would you find the area of the shaded region. Let's move on to the next question. The function f is such that f of x is given to you by this equation for x between the values of 0 and pi. Now again, if you want to know, 0, pi is just 180. Okay, now what else do we need to do here? So part 1, we have to express f of x in the form of this, where we only have cos square x and no sin square x. So pretty easy. Now what can we use? We have to think, okay, since we don't have any sin square x, we have to convert sin square x to cos square x. So how would you do that? So pretty easy. We realize that sin square x is equal to 1 minus cos square x. So we just have to replace this by this in the main equation. You have 2 sin square x will be 1 minus cos square x is equal to, say, minus 3 cos square x. Now we can simplify equal to what? That would be 2 minus 2 cos square x minus 3 cos square x. That will be 2 minus 5 cos square x. So finally, f of x is equal to 2 minus 5 cos square x. as you can see in this form where a and b, we need to find by comparing. This is a and this is b. So now we have to state the value. A will be the value of 2 and b will be the value of -5. That is part 1 of your question. Now part 2, state the greatest and the least values of f of x. So pretty easy. Now since we know f of x is equal to 2 minus 5 cos square x. Now at first we do know something. Between this domain of x, 0 to 180, we know cos of x can take the value between what? -1 to 1, right? But now here we have square. What values can cos square x take? It cannot be negative, right? So it can be 0 and 1. So consequently, hence, the smallest value of this is this, and the largest value of this is this. Okay, so we have to use this understanding to find the greatest and the lowest value of this. So for example, 2 is a constant, it will not change. 5 is a multiple, it will not change. The only thing changing here is this. For example, here we have 2 minus 5. When this is 0, that will be what? 2. 2 minus 5. When this is 1, that should be 2 minus 5 is -3. So obviously the max value is 2 and the minimum value is -3, as you can see over here. That will be part 2 of the question. Now part 3, we have to solve the equation f of x plus 1 is 0. So let's first write this down. F of x is given to you or found to be this, as we have seen. Plus 1 has to be 0. Let's first simplify. You will have what? So 2 plus 1 is 3 equal to 5 cos square x. Right. Now let's first make cos square x become subject. You will have 3 over 5. That should be what? 0.6. But there's no need to simplify if you don't want to. No big deal. Now here we have to make cos x become subject. That will be plus minus 0.6. Right. Now obviously we do realize that there's two possible answers. One is plus root of 0.6, or it could be the value of minus root of 0.6. So now let's do this one first. Now when we know that when cos is positive, it will be in the first quadrant and in the fourth quadrant, right? This is just your value of x directly, and that should be 360 minus x, or 2 pi minus x in terms of radians. So let's solve this. X will be cos inverse of root of 0.6. So here we have to use radians because you're told the values of x is in radians, right? So let's do this. Cos inverse of root 0.6. That will be 0.685. Now also, that is just your value of x, but also we have to look at this one, 2 pi minus answer, that should be 5 point, it's correct to 3SF, that should be 60. That makes sense, right? That will be two values of x. Now, of course, it is for now. Now, for this one, it is negative. Now, whenever we have a negative value, we obviously don't find the value of x directly, but first we have to realize it will be in the second quadrant and the third quadrant. This will be the value of pi minus the angle, let's call this theta, and this will be pi plus the angle theta. But now we also realize that theta, we use theta whenever we have a negative value here. So theta is not the answer, it is cos inverse of positive this. Again, theta is not your answer, don't worry about this. This is just a method we use to find the value of x eventually, okay? Now theta, that should be cos inverse of root of 0.6, that should be the same thing again, 0.685. This is your value of theta. Now, according to the quadrants, as you can see, we have to find the value of x. That should be first, we have to look at this one, that will be pi minus theta. So pi is what? Pi is pi minus theta. That should be 2.457. And then here we have pi plus theta. So pi plus 0.685. That should be 3.82. 0.27. So for these kind of question, I would recommend you guys, if you guys don't understand the whys and all that, no big deal. Just understand the how. How do we do this kind of question? I think I have laid out the steps for you very clearly. When it is positive, we'll look at the quadrants and we can find the value of x directly when it is positive. Now when it is negative, we choose a fake angle. In this case, I choose theta. But first, we have to know in which or in what quadrant they fall into. Now you can see we'll be in the second quadrant and the third quadrant. Now, first we begin with finding this angle, which is equal to cos inverse of the positive value of this. Then once you find this, you go back to your quadrants, you find your value of x by taking these values, right? Now finally, we have to go back and check if it falls in between those two. Now what is the value of pi? It is 3.142. Okay, so the value of x can only be between those two values. Let's check. This one is too much and this one is too much. So finally x can only be 0.685 and then 2.457. Or you can write 0.685 and 2.46, correct to 3SF. Let's move on to the next question. A curve is such that dy by dx is given to you by this, and the passing point is this. So this is the point which lies on the curve. Good to know. Now part 1, we have to find the equation of a curve. Now again, we understand that the equation of a curve is what? It is the value of y. Now how do you find y? Y is equal to integration of dy by dx. So let's do this. So part 1, that should be integration of dy by dx should be 3 power half minus 6 dx. That will be 3 x over 2 divided by the power again, and minus 6x of course plus c at the end. Now we have to simplify. This and this will cancel out. This will become 2x 3 over 2 minus 6x plus c, and that should be y. So finally we have the points 9, 2. That is x and y. We place back in the equation. That will be 2 here. X is 9, 3 over 2 minus 6, 9 plus c. 2 here, that should be 2 times what? 9 power 1.5 should be 27 minus 6 times 9, that should be 54, right? Now let's solve for the value of c. So 1 by 1, 2 times 27 minus 54 is 0. This will be 0. So c will be the value of 2. So finally the equation is y. Y is equal to 2x 3 over 2 minus 6x plus the value of 2. That is part 1 of your question. Now for part 2, we have to find the x value or the x coordinate of the stationary point and find the nature of the point. So pretty easy. So we have to know at stationary point, we'll look at dy by dx have to equal to 0. That's something we have to know for this kind of question. Now dy by dx is equal to 3 x power half minus 6 is 0. So let's make x become subject. You will have 3x power half, that should be 6. X power half should be the value of 2. And finally, for us to make this become x, we have to apply square on both sides. For example, here we have this, right? If you apply square here, this will cancel out. You have x is equal to the value of 4. So that will be your x value. Now, for you to find so this is part 1 done. To find the nature, we have to look at what? Whenever you have to find the nature, we have to look at d2y by dx2. So let's first find that. So we know this is dy by dx, so d2y by dx2 will be multiply first by the power. You will have 3 over 2. Right, then minus 1, that will be minus half, and that should be just 0. Right? If you differentiate a constant, it will be a 0. That's the idea for this one. Now step 1, let me simplify this. You will have, this is 1.5 over root of x. because we have to know x power half is simply root of x. Here we have negative, we'll bring it down, become positive, then it will be root of x. Now we have to find this value at x equal to the value of 4, which is 1.5 divided by root of 4, that should be 1.5 over 2. That is the value of 0.75. Now the value itself is not important. We use this value as we have to look at the sign. The sign is positive. So we write, since d2y by dx2 is more than 0, we confirm that the stationary point is what? It is a minimum point. That's the value we have to, that's the conclusion we have to draw from this value. So we have to write this because it is positive, it is more than 0. The stationary point is a minimum point. So if it was negative, it will be a maximum point. Let's move on to the next question. The diagram shows part of the curve y equals to 2 minus 18 over 2x plus 3. Okay, as you can see here, this is my curve. Okay. Now, part 1 says which crosses the x-axis at the point A over here. Okay, and the y-axis at the point B over here. Okay, good to know. Now, the normal to the curve at A crosses the y-axis at C, as seen on the diagram. Now, part 1, we have to show the equation of the line AC is given to you by this. Okay, so we first have to find the equation of the line AC. Now we understand the line AC is a straight line, and to find the equation of a straight line, we must first find its gradient. Okay, so let me write this down. So we must first find the gradient of AC. Now, we know that, as you can see here, the normal to the curve at C, so the line AC is normal to the curve. It means that we can find the gradient of the tangent first, and then use that to find the gradient of AC, because the relationship between two perpendicular lines is what? It is the gradient of AC multiplied by the gradient of tangent has to be minus 1. This is their relationship for those two lines. So let's first one by one. Now how would you find this? So now we know this is simply dy by dx. So gradient of tangent is simply dy by dx. So let's find this. That will be, we can rewrite this as what? Y equal to 2 minus 18. We can send this up. That will be 2 plus 3 power minus 1. So that should be, first that will be 0. Then we have to multiply by the power, should be plus 18. 2x plus 3. Then we have to minus 1, that should be minus 2. And then multiply by d by dx of the value inside, that should be 2. That should be 36 over 2x plus 3 over 2. This is your value of dy by dx. So now we have to find that value at the point of A. So we don't know the point A yet, so we have to find the point A as well. So where's the point A? The point A is on the x-axis, as we know. On the x-axis, the value of y has to be 0. To replace here, you will see what happens. Have 0 here, that should be 2. 18 over 2x plus 3. Send this over here, you will have 18 over 2x plus 3 equal to 2. Now divide by 2 on both sides, that will become 1, that will become 9. Then we can just cross multiply, you will have 9 equal to 2x plus 3. That will give you 2x is equal to 6. From here, x will be the value of 3. This is the value of 3. So the point A is value of 3, 0. Replace back in dy by dx to find the gradient. That should be 36 over 2 times 3 plus 3 power 2, that is 81. 36 divided by 81, that should be 4 over 9. This is the gradient of tangent. Now we have to find the gradient of normal. Replace back in this equation, you will have the gradient of AC will be minus 9 over 4. Okay, so this is the gradient of this straight line. So how do you find the equation of a line? We have to have the gradient, obviously, and also the passing point, which is which was found to be 3, 0. This is the x value and the y value. So we can do this. Y minus this corresponding value over x minus its corresponding value should be equal to the gradient. Now again, this is just a method that I use to find the equation of a line. If you have a different method, feel free to do so as well. Now cross multiply, you will have 4y is equal to minus 9x plus the value of 27. Now we can simplify, obviously, send this over here. You will have 9x plus 4y is 27, and this is shown as required. Part 1 of the question. Now for part 2, we have to find the length of BC. Okay, so to find the length of BC, we have to find the point B and the point C. So let's first find the point B. The point B is on the y-axis, where the value of x has to be 0. Replace back in your equation. Y will be 2 minus 18 over 3. That should be 2 minus 6 minus 4. The point B is 0 minus 4. This is minus 4 over here. Now for the point C, pretty easy as well. Again, it is on the y-axis when the value of x has to be 0. Now we have the equation right here. Replace the x is 0 plus 4y has to be 27. So y had to be 27 divided by 4. That should be what? 6.75. Right, so the value here is 6.75. So what is the length of BC? You can use your, it is up to you. You can use the formula. You can look here, you can observe. What is that? What is this distance? It is a vertical distance. It will be this minus this should be what? Or you can look at this in this way. From B we go to 0, it is what? It is 4. From 4 going to this, it is 6.75. So together should be 10.75, right? So distance of BC should be 10.75 units. Now again, it is exact value. Sorry about this. We don't need to round it up to 3SF. It is exact value 10.75. And that will be your question, part 2. Now let's move on to the next question. The diagram shows a triangle ABC, okay, in which A is 3 minus 2, okay, and B is given to you by 15, 22. B is right here. Now the gradients of AB, AC, okay, and then BC are given to you by these values, where M is a positive value, constant. Okay, pretty easy. Now part 1, we have to find the gradient of AB and hence find the value of M. So pretty easy. Since we have the points A and B, we can find the gradient by using your formula, right? So gradient of AB, it is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 22 minus 2 divided by 15 minus this should be 12. That is 2. So we realize the gradient of AB is 2, right? However, now we can see that also it is given to you that the gradient of AB is given to you by 2m. So we realize 2 is 2m. So m has to be the value of 1. So which means the gradient of AC has to be minus 2, and the gradient of BC have to be 1. Okay, so value of this one is 2, m is 1. So this is part 1 of the question. Now part 2, we have to find the point C. So pretty easy. How would you find the point C? So by observation, you can see the point C is the point of intersection of two lines, of the line AC and the line BC, right? So we can first find the equation of those two lines and then find the point of intersection. So one by one. We know the gradient of AC is minus 2 and the passing point is A, which is given to you by 3 minus 2. X value and the Y value. So Y minus 2, X minus 3 should be minus 2 over 1. Y plus 2 has to be minus 2x plus 6. Y is equal to minus 2x plus 4. This is the equation of the line AC. Now what else? We have to find the equation of the line. So AC is this one. We have to find BC now. So this is actually this one, and we have to find BC. Gradient of BC is given to you by 1. The passing point is B, which is 15, 22. So y minus 22, x minus 15 has to be 1 is 1 over 1. Cross multiply, you will have y minus 22 is equal to x minus 15. Y is equal to minus 15 plus 22 is plus 7. That should be the equation of the line BC. So let me write this down. We have two equations now. So the first equation is y minus 2x plus 4, number 1. And number 2 is y is equal to x plus 7. That is number 2. So obviously we're trying to find the point of intersection, which is C. So we have to solve simultaneously. So let's make y is already subject. So let's just replace in each other. So on the left side we have this. And that should be on the right side as well. Send all the x to one side, you will have minus 2x has to be the value of 3, so x will be minus 1, so y will be replaced back here. You have minus 1 plus 7, that should be 6. So C will be minus 1, 6. That is your point C for part 2 of the question. Now, the perpendicular bisector of AB meets BC at D. So for example, if you had a perpendicular bisector at AB, so AB is this point, so the perpendicular bisector is a line passing through the midpoint of AB at 90 degrees at right angle, right? So first we can find the midpoint. The midpoint is pretty easy. X1 plus x2, so 15 plus 3 is 18, divided by 2, that should be 9. And y1 plus y2, that should be 20, that should be 10. This is the midpoint of the line AB. Now we understand that this line here passes at the midpoint at 90 degrees. But what is the gradient of this line? As we have seen before, when two lines are perpendicular, we can use one line to deduce the gradient of the other line. So here we know the gradient of AB was this, so gradient of this line should be minus half. Okay, so now we have the gradient and the passing point. We can find the equation. X value, y value, so y minus 10 over x minus 9 should be minus half. That will be 2y minus 20 minus x plus 9. 2y is equal to minus x plus 29. So this is the equation of the line right here. Now we are told that this line also meets BC at the point D. So we have to find the point of intersection between this line and this line. So again, the equation of BC was found already. Let me write this down. It was found to be y is equal to x plus 7. So again, one more time, we have two equations we can solve simultaneously. 2 times y minus x plus 29, that will be 2x plus 14, and that should be minus x plus 29. Send this over here, you will have 3x, and this over here will be what? 29 minus 14 should be 15. X will be the value of 5. So finally, y will be 5 plus 7, that should be the value of 12. Right? So here we go. The answer will be, the point D will be 5 and 12. Okay, and that will be part 3 of the question. Let's move on to the next question. The function f is defined by this one. For x between in the real values. You can take any value basically. Okay, good. Now a few things we can observe about f of x is we understand the coefficient of x squared is positive, so the shape will be somewhat like this. That's something we can kind of have at the back of our mind. Now let's move on. Part 1. We have to express f of x in this form. So step by step, I can write the f of x first as 2x squared minus 12x plus 7. Now, we have to make sure the coefficient of x squared is 1. So let's factorize. 2 outside, you will have 1x squared minus 6x. Now we can just leave this one outside, no big deal. Now we can proceed to the next step, since here it is 1. So 2 is outside, here we have x squared minus 6x. Now we have to plus the value. Plus something is this value over here, 6 divided by 2 square. Now obviously when you add something, you also have to minus the same value, 6 over 2 square. But it was inside the bracket, we also have to give it the value of 2. Now we can simplify. 2 is here. Here we have x squared, we write x. Here we have minus, we write minus. Inside here we have 6 divided by 2 is 3. And here we have square. Now here we have 7 minus. So 6 divided by 2 square times minus 2. That should be 18. Right? So if you check, so 3 power 2 times 2 should be 18. 7 minus 18 should be minus 11. So let me write this down. That will be 2x3 square minus 11. Okay, this is expressing this in this form. Part 1 done. Now state the range of f of x. So pretty easy. Again, usually why did they ask you to do this first and then doing this? Sometimes there's a reason. In most cases, yes. Because we can use this one to find the range. So here, because when you express this in this form, you realize that the value here is the minimum value. For example, your curve will have this shape. So the value here will be y is equal to this value, which is minus 11 as the minimum value. So the range, as you can see, will always be more than this. So you can write y has to be more or equal to minus 11. You can write this as your answer, or if you want, you can write f as your answer as well, like this or this. That will be part 2 of your question. Now part 3, we have to find the set of values of x for which f of x is less than 21. So let's write this down. F of x is given to you by this one. Less than 21. Less than everything to one side, you will have this. So plus 7 minus 21 should be minus 14. That should be divided by 2 everywhere. You will have 6x minus 7. Now, as you can see, we have a quadratic equation. We can now factorize and find the critical values first. That should be equal to 0 for the critical values. Here, x times x, 7 times 1. That should be minus 7 plus 1. X will be 7, x will be minus 1. So here, the line 0, the curve will have the shape of this because the coefficient of x squared is 1. It is positive, it will have a shape of this. Now, here we have minus 1, here we have the value of 7. Now we need this to be less than 0, so less than 0 will be at the bottom. This is 0, and this will be less. So x have to be between minus 1 and 7. This is the set of values of x that we will need to take for this to happen. That is part 3 of the question. Now, the function g is defined to you, for you by this. 2x plus k. It is a straight line, as we can see. 2x plus k. Now, part 4 of the question, we have to find the value of k for which the equation this has 2 equal roots. So we have to understand, this is simply understanding the discriminant have to be equal to 0. So let's find this. So we know g of x was given to you by 2x plus k. F of x was given to you by the value of, what is that? It is this one. Minus 12x plus 7. Right. So now, we're trying to find g f of x. So pretty easy. 2 times f of x will be this one plus k over here is for now 0. Now let's try to simplify. Let's see what do we get. That will be 4x squared minus 24x plus 14 plus k, right? Now of course equal to 0. This is the value of a, value of b, value of c. So b squared is minus 24 squared minus 4 times a times c is equal to 0 because it has two equal roots, so basically one root. Okay, so let's simplify. So minus 24 squared is 576 minus 16 times 14 plus k. So divide by 16, 576 divided by 16, that should be 36. So here you will have 36 minus 14 plus k. So continue. So we can send this over here. You will have 14 plus k have to be 36. So k will be 36 minus 14, 22. So your value here of k will be 22. But the main takeaway here is actually this: whenever you have two equal roots, we have to think of this. The discriminant is equal to 0. b squared minus 4ac is the discriminant. So it means we have only one root, one kind of root, and that will give you this value over here. Using that, we understand we have to solve, and finally, step by step, you will have your value of k to be 22. So let's move on to the next question. The diagram shows a parallelogram OABC. So OABC, okay, as you can see here. Now, given that OA is given to you by I, 3J, 3K, this one, okay, that's the one, and then OC is this one, okay. We here part 1, we have to find a unit vector in the direction of OB. So to find this, we must first find OB. So how would you find OB? So pretty easy. From O, we have to go to B. O, you first go to A, and A, go to B. Right? OA is given to you by I, 3J, and 3K, plus AB. Now we understand that this and this have to be same because they are because of the properties of a parallelogram. Because of that, we know it has to be the same value. That should be 3 minus 1, 1. That should be 4, 2, and 4. Right? Now, this is the value of OB. Now, for us to find the unit vector in direction of OB, we have to take OB divided by the magnitude of OB. Pretty easy. Here we have 4, 2, 4 divided by the magnitude. So it will be 4 squared plus 2 squared plus 4 squared. That should be root of 36. That should be what? Divide by 6. So we can simplify. We can divide by 2 everywhere. You will have 2 here, 1 here, 2 here, and here you will have 3. So finally we can write it will be 1 over 3 times 2i plus jm plus 2k. Now the reason why we write this as such is because it is given to you as such. You always give it back the same way for your answer. Part 1 of the question. Now for part 2, we have to find the acute angle between the diagonals of the parallelogram. So what are we trying to find? Let's have a look. The diagonals will be what? Let's join AC. And we can join OB as well. Right? So we're trying to find the acute angle. Let's say we are trying to find this. This will be the large angle. Let's say we're trying to find this angle or this one. Same thing. So how would you find this angle? Let's call this X, for example. We're trying to find the angle AXB. Okay? But anyways, the main idea is that this angle is between the direction of AX and OB. Right? If that makes sense. This angle is between the two directions of AX and OB. So OB and AX. Same thing. So let's take this one. Between the direction of CA and OB. Right? So let's find the directions first. First we know OB was found in part 1 as 4 to 4, and the magnitude of OB was found to be 6. That is something we know. That is good. Now we have to find CA. What is CA? By observation, CA could be C going to B and then B going to A, right? So C going to B is the same thing as this. So CB will be 1, 3, 3. And then B going to A will be plus in the opposite direction, because at first we know AB is in this direction, BA will be in the opposite direction. So it will be same value as this one, should be minus 3 plus J minus 1. Should be the opposite of that direction. That should give you the value of minus 2, 4, and minus 2. Right. Now let me write this down. This is the other direction that we have. Minus 2, 4, minus 2. Now what is the magnitude of CA? 2 square, 4. 4 square, 16, and then 4. That should be root of 24. So finally, to find the angle, we have to perform dot product. So that will be 4, 2, 4, dot of minus 2, 4, minus 2, equal to the magnitude 6 times root of 24, and the angle, let's call this angle x. So that should be cos of x, my apologies, cos of x. Now solve this one by one. So 4 times minus 2 is minus 8, plus 8, plus minus 8. That should be minus 8 divided by 6 root of 24. Cos of x. 6 root of 24 minus 8 divided by answer should be this. And cos inverse, let's use degrees here. You will have x will be 105.79, but no big deal because now it is not acute. We can change that to acute. We take 180 minus this value to make it become acute. That should be, so minus x, that should be 74.2. Correct to 1 decimal place. Okay, that will be part 2 of your question. Okay, so as you can see, we're trying to find the acute angle, but if the result does not give you an acute angle, you can just take 180 and minus the angle to find the acute. So for example, here what happened was, instead of finding this angle, I found this big one. And I can just take 180 minus this one to get this one, if that makes sense. Okay, that will be part 2 of the question. Now for part 3, we have to find the perimeter of the object. Correct to 1 decimal place. So we understand that this side and this side have to be the same, and this have to be the same. Now, as we have seen from part 1, we know the side OA. We can find its magnitude pretty easy. Root of 1 square is 1, plus 9, that should be 19. So we understand OA is root of 19, which means this is also root of 19. Now we know the value of AB. AB is what? So OC is given to you by this. We can find its magnitude as well pretty easily. That should be 3 square plus 1 square plus 1 square. That should be 11. That should be root of 11 and root of 11. So finally, the distance around will be the sum of all these length. So 2 times root of 19 plus 2 times root of 11. That should be 15.35, which is 15.4. As your perimeter correct to 1 decimal place.